It's time for Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccr.com. Coach's Corner is brought to you by Todd's Electric, James Pharmacy, Lamb Motors, Avera, Hawaii Federal Credit Union, and Edward Jones Financial. Coach's Corner is also brought to you by Graham Tire, Kruger Contracting, CHS River Plains, Gales Gas, Bank West, and Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota. From the KCCR studios in Pierre, KCCR award-winning sports director, John Winkler.
And we welcome you inside the KCCR studios here on this Wednesday evening, as it is another edition of Coach's Corner here on KCCR. As we get set to talk winter sports, we'll talk with the Pierre wrestling coaches on the boys' side and Sean Lewis, and the girls' side of Matt Thorson. We'll also talk with Rebecca Feller, Pierre Governor Gymnastics head coach. Their seasons all get underway this week with the gymnastics team in action tomorrow night in Huron, and the Governor girls wrestling team get their first action on Friday and only on Friday, and then Friday and Saturday for the Mandan tournament for the Pierre boys wrestling team as their seasons all get underway this weekend, and we'll talk with all three of those coaches. That's on the way next. You're listening to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
No one likes to have electrical problems, but when they happen, call Todd's Electric at 223-2518. With over 30 years of experience, Todd's Electric can handle any type of electrical problem, whether it's residential, commercial, or agriculture. Their knowledgeable staff knows and understands the importance of your home, business, or ag facility and are prepared to help. That number again is 223-2518. Todd's Electric Service, serving the Pierre-Fort Pierre area. Todd's Electric Service, the line to power.
Look, it's no secret that owning a vehicle can cause a lot of stress, and they get a lot of wear and tear on them through every season. Graham Tire wants you to know that you can trust them with any problem that you have with your vehicle. They have fully trained ASE certified mechanics on staff, ready to handle it for you. From brakes and bearings to alignments and front ends. Let their experience work for you. Over 50 years combined means you can count on them. So if it's time for a transmission flush or even a simple oil change, the only name you need to know is Graham Tire, 421 West Sioux Avenue in Pierre.
Building a home. It's the biggest investment most of us make in a lifetime. Not to mention, it's a decision that, well, you pretty much live with day and night. The quality of the workmanship stares back at you like a reflection. It also affects the value of your investment. Choosing the right contractor is critical. Kruger Contracting is that contractor. Call 222-2523. Quality workmanship and materials completed on time. Kruger Contracting. In a word, quality. Call 222-2523.
Let me talk to you.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
Yeah.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Sean Lewis of the Pierre boys wrestling team. They get set for their first weekend of competition going up to North Dakota. Coach, you and I talked about this a little bit last Tuesday after the wrestle-offs. And we'll talk about the wrestle-offs here in just a little bit too. But the chance to go to North Dakota and to face a whole bunch of really good competition, out-of-state teams that, regardless of wins or losses, you're not worried about seeing them the rest of the year other than maybe another tournament somewhere here or there. But it's a really good starting point for Pierre wrestling, and as it is every single year.
Yeah, I mean, just simply the way that they run their tournament. First day, they put you into, there's 2 different pools per weight class. So they split the pool up, and you wrestle 5 times or 4 times, whatever it is, the first day. And then, how you do in your pool then, after you've wrestled everybody in your pool, then the second day they stick you into brackets. So, it's not like going to a regular big tournament where, you get stuck in a 64-man or a 32-man bracket, and you don't know where you'll be seated or if you're seated, and then worried about who you draw. You just get a chance to let it fly and wrestle everybody, and then when you put it with a bunch of North Dakota teams that you may never see again or won't see come state tournament time, it really just lets you kind of concentrate on you and see where you're at and continue to build throughout the year. Realistically, with only 2 other South Dakota schools there, with Stevens and Sturgis, who we see a decent amount right away, but then we get our chances to see the rest of the state. So, like I said, great format, bunch of great teams, and just a fantastic way to start the year.
And you mentioned too all the matches that you get. It's not just you might go 0-2 and all of a sudden you're done in a weekend. You're gonna you might go 0-2 to start the weekend, but you can go and win 7 matches the rest of the weekend still. So it gives everybody a chance to, if you don't start off on the right foot, you can still finish on the right foot. You just get a lot of matches in that first weekend.
Yeah, I mean most kids will end up with 7 matches coming out of Mandan, depending on where you're at in your bracket and whatnot. And like you said, when you get to see all those different people, it's really fun. I mean, even if you don't have a great first day, you could take a loss, and then you can actually come back and avenge that loss. Come on in day 2 as you get put in a bracket, and there's not many tournaments that can still you could take a loss and then come back and see the same kids. So like I said, unique format, really cool, especially a great way to start the year.
Let's go back to last Tuesday, the wrestle-offs. You were happy with what you saw on that Tuesday, and as you got a chance to digest all that, get through the rest of the week and start the week here, your biggest takeaway overall about the wrestle-offs?
A lot of it was, I was already self-aware, like, hey, we're a young team. You then finally see some of your kids in singlets and, see what their body types actually look at rather than T-shirt and shorts. You're like, wow, we have a bunch of skinny, tall kids, which, hasn't necessarily been the case in the last couple of years as we've had some beefcake football players, but we didn't get to see, a couple of our other kids that were sick or whatever. We've had some early season sickness go through the room. I don't know if it's just coming off of, this time of the year or after football, but, so I'm glad we're working through some of that stuff right away. But, overall, I was impressed with the competitiveness, the technical awareness of a lot of the kids. And it's just, after you get to see them wrestle in a live match, you get to start, picking their brain about their decision making. And, from there you can start to, find ways for them to improve. And ultimately, I mean, that's what we did as a coaching staff is we sit back for the most part in, those wrestle-offs and we don't coach at all. We're looking for technically what are some things or errors that, a vast majority of everybody are making, or, you look at where are some, places or positions that we can start to work on to improve. And so really it's a great place for us to gather a bunch of data, determine the measuring stick, and then, hey, where do we need to go and game plan, moving forward into the next couple weeks.
You mentioned it too. It's a young team this year. A lot of guys that were graduating. There's a couple of guys that come back that had some really good state tournaments from last year. But overall, that's going to be a little exciting, maybe a little nervous too, going that first weekend, seeing such a young team for the Pierre Governors to go out there.
Yeah, a lot of both, to tell you the truth. I mean, we've got some guys back who've, made the state tournament and placed at the state tournament, but, for the most part, we've had graduating classes of, 6 to 9, and I think last year's graduating class was 9, and the vast majority of them were on varsity, where you've got 4 or 5, this year, and only 2 or 3 of them have varsity experience. And so, when we say, yeah, we do have 5 seniors or whatnot, but, we're going to be looking for a lot of guys to step into spots and, fill some roles and some holes that haven't necessarily been, the guy before, but that's how you get experience. And so they're going to be, going out weeks 1 against some really good teams, and, we'll get a quick glimpse right away of, what this team is capable of.
And again, for your side of things as a coach, to see guys again wrestle against guys that are you're not going to see at the state tournament, to whether they win or lose, a really good chance to see them wrestle against somebody other than a Pierre Governor.
Yeah, a lot of these teams that we're going to see, you can go after your primary and your secondary stuff and really not worry about anybody scouting you, because they're in the same boat we are. There's not a lot of North Dakota teams that are going to sit and alter practice worried about what Pierre's going to bring to the table come Friday, Saturday at the Mandan Invite. Just the same as we're not going to. We're going to sit and focus on our development, both technically, physically, conditioning, and ultimately see how that takes us into the year.
Now, North Dakota does things a little bit different. You mentioned it, too, after the wrestle-offs, that the weight classes are a little bit different number-wise, and then also how many there are, but what the weight is. So going into this weekend, too, one for you probably is a little bit of stressful trying to make sure guys are in the right spot, especially as new as everybody is moving into these spots. But on the same stand of, where do we put these guys in? Who do we take this guy out, and how do you handle that?
it's really interesting, to say the least. It has been a puzzle that I've sat over the weekend. I mean, you move from last Tuesday of really working on, okay, like what weight classes are kids going to wrestle off for, and then seeing who possibly wins the wrestle off for those weight classes, or puts himself in position to be the varsity guys. I mean, no varsity spot was really won or lost last Tuesday. It just kind of gives us an indication of how this is going to progress throughout the year and where kids, possibly are going to, be at as far as a pecking order. But then you got to take our 14 weight classes and then try merging them into the 13 weight classes that North Dakota has. And then all of those are different and there's different gaps. And so, whereas you spent last week worrying about 40 kids and their OPC and where it allowed them to wrestle in South Dakota, now you have to go back and double check all of them again and try and figure out, well, where does that allow them to wrestle in North Dakota based upon that day and what their weight classes are. And then, like I said, you kind of had 14 guys solidify themselves a little bit, and now you got to try and get 14 into 13 and then see where their weight certification. It's a mess. Last year we sat Trey Lewis, and the reason why we sat him is because that conversation with his parents was a little bit easier to have. Very jokingly, right? I could kind of go to his mom, and she was not a happy camper that he was the one sitting out, but I just felt that was kind of the right thing to do, is just, like, hey, I can make the call, like sit him out because his OPC didn't allow him to wrestle. And so, realistically it was, do you want Trey Lewis or Chance Sarda? Well, both of them were state finalists the year before. There's really no way to justify like which one would get to go, which one wouldn't. So I was like, well, you're going to sit out because I think I can have a handle on dealing with your mom a little bit more than Chance's, although they're very good parents as well and would have understood. So, now I don't have that luxury. Now I've got, somebody has to sit or try and get two kids into one weight class, which isn't an easy thing to do as these brackets, fill up and they don't have room for a lot of extras based upon the number of teams that come. Some years they allow no extras, and some years they allow some extras. And so that's ultimately the puzzle that as the week progresses, we're still, trying to get into, and you still got to have kids making weight, and so you don't really know the answer until Thursday, and you wrestle on Friday, so it's not great, but it's the world we live in, so it's what we got to deal with.
Well, and then you also have guys going to Clark this weekend, correct? To also have a JV, maybe some varsity guys will be there too, or from other teams, maybe not so much for the peer governors, and maybe there will be too, but a chance for everybody to still at least get out and be able to wrestle this weekend. Yeah,
and they're actually, Clark runs 15 weight classes, so let's just add another wrinkle into the mix, right? They have their South Dakota, 14 weight classes, and then they add a 98-pound weight class, which we really thought we had a kid who weighs about 100 pounds, so I was like, all right, well, 98 is fine, it's easy. Well, you come to find out their OPC only allows them to go to like 99.2, and of course, it's just, of course, right? You just got another one to double check. But we're gonna have a mix of some kids that are gonna go there. We're gonna try to get as many kids into that varsity tournament as possible, and that's what we love to take our JV to varsity caliber tournaments. Is that's how you progress. You go to JV tournaments all too often. They're wrestling multiple matches on one mat, and that's just not what you really want for technical development of kids. And so you take them to a varsity tournament, you let them take their lumps, and they're going to see some good kids, and they might see some inexperienced kids, but ultimately they're going out and getting matches, and that's what we really want at this point in time. And, like I said, we're going to send some kids there, and there's really possibly some kids we send there that may end up on our varsity as the year progresses. It's just, it is what it is. And we've had that year after year, but it's a great thing that we got into kind of over COVID when everybody was searching for tournaments, and we've just never really gotten out of that one because they're so accommodating to us bringing over and bringing kids and just adding to the value of their tournament.
Again, talking with Coach Sean Lewis of the Pure Boys Wrestling Team. They will travel to Mandan. There will be some that are in Clark this weekend, the first weekend of the regular season, then going to Stevens the next weekend. The good of all of this, too, is that you just get the matches. I know we mentioned that earlier, we talked about it earlier, but overall the matches are going to be the important thing, and over those 2 weekends, this weekend and then the the 3-day weekend or 2 or 3 day weekend in Rapid City the following weekend, to get as many matches, a lot, especially for these young guys who are going to get their first varsity experience, these matches will go a long way, regardless of wins or losses this year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, experience these first couple weekends out. We've got our Brookings and T duel the Thursday night before the Rapid Invite. Rapid Invite's got varsity, got JV action as well, and then we move into really a couple tough duels right before Christmas of Aberdeen Central and then Harrisburg. So, I mean, we'll have 4 duels and 2 tournaments in before Christmas, which, I mean, mat time for these kids and the development that they're going to, have and go through, like I said, when they're young. And, I mean, we're still working in practice on covering a lot of basic stuff. And I just think there's so much stuff we haven't even got to yet because of where we're, trying to go with these kids, but that ultimately that's what it is. It's basics. And our team come after Christmas, after New Year's is going to be a whole lot more developmentally further along, than we're going to be right now. So I mean, it's just as much experience as we can get moving in, and understanding that this thing is a process and that's what it takes, and just stick to the process and we'll be fine coming out of Christmas break.
And kind of wrap things up here, that final question, again, it's one of my favorite questions to ask is the biggest key overall here this weekend for the Peer Governors to have a successful weekend. Again, wins and losses aside, maybe it is a lot of wins, but the biggest key for the Governors this weekend.
Just being where your feet are. Ultimately, some of these guys, there's a ton of other things going on in the world and in their lives. And so, when they're at this tournament and they're soaking it in, I mean, they need to be there. They need to be there taking up the experience. They need to be there position by position and, just kind of figuring out exactly where they are and, where they want to be as you move forward into the rest of the year. I mean, they can't be thinking about state tournament as you're wrestling the Mandan Invite, just the same as we can't have, kids that played in the state championship football game still have their head in the state championship football game. They got to be where their feet are. They got to know, their purpose and where they're at. And if we can do that and, have that kind of perspective, I think, each and every single week, regardless of where we are, improvement will take place.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time as always. First of several here over the coming months for Coach's Corner. Appreciate the time. Safe travels this weekend and good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's head coach Sean Lewis, the Peer Governor boys wrestling team. Back with more of Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
As community bankers, BankWest employees are deeply committed to supporting local causes, growing the local economy, and creating local opportunities. At a time when you can bank anywhere, we hope you choose BankWest. We'll be your financial partner for the long haul, helping you and your community achieve financial success. BankWest. Convenient, connected, committed. Member FDIC.
Score big on your next vehicle purchase with Lamb Motor Company in Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre. Check out their large selection of new and pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs at any one of their locations, or go online to lambmotor.com. That's LAMBMOTOR.com. Or give them a call today at 800-952-2222. Lamb Motor Company of Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre.
Hey you. Are you at a job that is fulfilling, has good benefits to support you or a family today, and retirement goes down the road? If you just said no, listen up. CHS River Plains is hiring operations personnel, drivers, and custom applicators at several locations. These come with a knockout affordable benefit package for you and the whole family. Apply to a job with CHS River Plains and up your benefits straight up. To apply, visit us online at chsriverplains.com or stop in at one of our locations. CHS is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, so y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please.
This is Coach's Corner on your home for the Peer Governors, KCCR, and online at kccrradio.com.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Matt Thorson of the Peer Girls Wrestling Team as they get set to start their season on Friday up in Watertown. Coach, we got a chance to talk a little bit last Tuesday after the wrestle-offs, and you got a chance to first see your team. Obviously, were there any surprises to you, or I guess not even so much wins and losses, but maybe some girls that really showed you a lot more, than maybe what you're kind of expecting going into the year?
There was, we had wrestled everybody, middle school, JV, varsity girls, and things like that. So I think for the most part, what we got from our varsity girls and returners was pretty much as expected. I think that they didn't look quite as rusty, quite as out of shape as I maybe had initially thought they would have been, which is a good sign going into the year. But that's a testament to all the work that they put in the off season, in the summer, the open mats during the fall, things like that. So really not a surprise in a way, just because, I know how much time they've put in. And then, we had some younger girls and actually some new girls that had just come out for the sport that all looked pretty salty, pretty good, obviously raw and inexperienced, but definitely some scrappy young bucks coming up that are going to be fun to kind of mold and kind of develop into the system and see what they're capable of this year and going forward.
And that's still so much of the fun of girls wrestling is, on the boys' side of things, someone tells you, hey, you'd be a really good wrestler. You probably have already been wrestling, or maybe, you say, well, yeah, I'm not going to do it. But the girls' side of things, because the sport is still new in the high school ranks, that there are girls that had never thought about wrestling at all and then say, hey, I'm going to try it. And realize just how good they are, and that's still some of the fun of these next couple of years because of how new the sport is for the girls' side of things. That you're still seeing these girls show up and saying, "Hey, I'm just going to give it a try," and all of a sudden, you got a really good wrestler on your hands.
Yeah, I mean they're still, and like you said, like wrestling in the grand scheme of things is all in its infancy still. And with that being said, we're still making leaps and bounds exponentially every single year. But we still are at a point where it's like, hey, if you can get someone, like I said, a physical girl who's willing to give it a shot and throw all her chips on the table, you can see immediate success in the sport, which is really cool. And I don't think that you can say that about a lot of other sports right now. So it helps get girls out for the sport, knowing that, hey, I don't have to spend 7 years getting my butt kicked. I can have success right now if I'm willing to put in the work. So that's awesome to see, and that's awesome for these girls to experience that type of success. But at the same time, there are, the level and the competition that these girls are bringing, not just in Pierre but throughout the state, are advancing, and it's getting more competitive every single year. And we've seen that, you've seen that. So it's all heading in the right direction. But at the same time, getting these young girls and these new girls out is so important because it doesn't take them too long to see success.
And you mentioned it too, that the level of competition continues to rise and get better and better. But the same, across the state, but the same is also said in the Pierre Wrestling Room. And you're being able to watch that these girls that are getting better are getting challenged by those girls that are below them, whether it be younger grades, whether it be maybe a different weight class, that these girls continue to get better, and the Pierre Governors are continuing to get better as the years go on. And especially as again, the sport is trying to leave its infancy, but still in that infancy stage, that this competition across the state is good, but the Pierre Wrestling Room is just as good.
Yeah, I mean, we've added, a couple of seniors to the roster with Aniston Bade and Olivia Stetson. So 2 new seniors, just those 2 alone add some depth to the classroom and to the wrestling room. And, on top of that, a couple freshmen, couple sophomores that have joined, and it's really nice to see that they're adding that depth and they're adding that competition to push these other girls as well.
Talking with Coach Matt Thorson of the Pierre girls wrestling team. You are traveling to Watertown on Friday. It's just a one-day tournament. Obviously there's those Friday, Saturdays. The boys get a chance, and you'll have that chance to come. And the next weekend, I believe, going out to Rapid City. But having the one-day tournament, is it nice? Is it good? Or do you say, boy, I really miss that second day of being able to watch these girls compete? Or is it just, a chance to, hey, let's go compete for a day, and then we get a chance to rest, recoup, and get going for a 2-day event?
Yeah, it's a long season, so the fact that this isn't a 2-day isn't by any means a bad thing. I don't think it's still an opportunity to go see good competition, and next week we'll go Thursday, Friday, Saturday wrestling, 3 back-to-back days. So by no means does it hurt us. I don't think it's just good to get out on the mat at any point right now, and again we're going to see good competition. So. That's really no skin off our back, and we don't really pay much attention to that.
You and I got a chance to talk again after the wrestle-offs about that first competition. We didn't get a chance to really talk in depth about it, but one of the things that you had talked about is just getting out and competing. You just mentioned it there too. That wins and losses on this Friday. Obviously, everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to leave there, not winning a match or having just even lost a match. But you're really looking at how these girls can compete again to start the season. Some how they're you kind of expect and you're going to see where they're going to be at. But some of these new girls and some of these girls that are stepping up into different weight classes or stepping into the weight class now at the varsity level, a real good chance to kind of see where you stand across some really good teams in the state.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We talked earlier. We'll see Canton this weekend. We'll see Watertown. So it's a measuring stick early in the season. That's good for us, especially these, our older girls, our veterans. We know relatively where they're at. Still good to see where everybody's at this year. But it's really going to be fun to watch these, like I said, these new girls go out and compete. And, it's taking some thumps as part of the sport. It's a humbling sport. But also, anything that they can experience on the mat is a positive. Win, lose, draw, whatever it is, you got to take away a positive from it. And sometimes it's just being able to step out on that mat for the first time. Maybe it's make it a good match. Maybe it's, get a takedown or an escape, whatever the case is. We just expect our girls to go out there and compete at the highest level they can. And there's no doubt that they're going to do that.
Again, talking with Coach Matt Thorson, the Pierre girls wrestling team. You guys, as a team, have won every team state championship. You've had multiple state champion winners over the last couple of years. I even said you're the unofficial first champion. That they didn't crown a champion, a team champion, the first year for girls wrestling, but the Pierre Governors would have won that one too. The target on your back. Coming from the football team where you guys had won 7 straight state championships, you as a coach, where the target is on the back of the Pierre Governors. The same for girls wrestling. How much fun? How kind of nerve-wracking is it? How much do you think about that a lot? That everybody's giving you your best, or is it even more fun knowing that everybody is saying, "Hey, we want to go beat the Pierre Governors"?
I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest with you, all the above. Just because. I think that, these girls, obviously, they understand that, the target's on our back. I don't know if it, affects them in their day-to-day life by any means, or, I don't think that it weighs on them like that, and hopefully it doesn't because it's a long season. But it's good to have that pressure, just to be part of a program that has, meaningful matches late in the year and that team aspect going into the state tournament. But, if that drives some of these girls to work harder in practice, that's great. It's not something that we talk about every day. It's something we all understand, and we know that if we don't bring our A game, just like in football, everybody else, that's what they're bringing. They're bringing their A game for us, and that's what we expect, and that's what we should be ready for.
Thanksgiving last weekend, any kind of bumps coming out of Thanksgiving weekend, or everybody understanding, the right thing to do, got everything done, everything kind of come okay out of Thanksgiving, getting ready for that first weekend?
Yeah, yep, oh, absolutely. I think, you're going to get some point in this season when a sickness bug comes around, and that seems to always happen in like a 2-week span. So, I got a couple of those little things, but definitely nothing serious, no injuries. So, we're healthy, we're ready to roll, and hopefully we can just stay healthy and keep that injury bug, keep that sickness bug out of the wrestling room as much as we can, and should be a fun year.
And then let's talk just a couple more questions about Friday. You mentioned, too, that there's going to be a lot of good teams. What do you want to see from your girls, especially in that first match? It's one thing to have the wrestle-offs. It's one thing to be in practice wrestling against your teammate, but then you finally get that first regular season match underway. That first match, what do you want to see from the girls?
I want to see us be the aggressor. And we talked about that in practice a little bit this morning, actually, is about, there's a big difference between stepping in the middle of the circle and then, being on our heels, being in defensive mode. Between that and being on your toes, being the one going forward, being the one pushing the pace, being the one, setting the tone early in the match. So that's what I want to see, especially with our older girls, is going out there and being the aggressor and really just kind of taking it to them and seeing how they respond rather than us waiting for them to do something, So going ahead and doing that and then just, competing. And they enjoy doing that. They're competitors at heart. And so I know we're going to get that from them, but really just being the aggressor, being on offense and just continuing to get one more takedown, to get one more, back point or whatever the case is, just keep pushing the whole match.
Now, this might be the same answer as the one before here. That overall the biggest key for the Governors to be successful on Friday in Watertown.
Yeah, I mean it is just simply that. It's be ourselves, and that was kind of the same thing going into the state tournament last year. We don't have to be anything that we're not, and don't worry about who we're wrestling right now. There's no there's no pressure as far as that goes. Like I said, it's a long season, so. Just, be ready mentally, physically, get warmed up, make sure we're ready to go, and then going out there and competing at a high level.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time as always. Good to have wrestling season back and going again. Appreciate it. Safe travels on Friday. Good luck this weekend, and we'll be talking again soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
That is head coach Matt Thorson of the Pierre Governor Girls Wrestling Team. Back with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. kccrradio.com.
People helping people.
Have you ever wondered what the benefits are of becoming a Owyhee Federal Credit Union member? At Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we reinvest profits in you. We do this in the form of lower interest rates, higher dividends, and low to no fees. So come check us out or come in at 221 East Pleasant Drive in Pierre, because at Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we treat our members like they own the place because, well, they do.
Owyhee Federal Credit Union.
Most of us already know that Gales Gas of Pierre is the place to call for propane. They offer an automatic fill plan so you never have to worry about running out of propane. They accept debit and credit payments or a budget payment plan to spread out the cost throughout the year so you never have surprises when you get your bill. For delivery, convenience, and great customer service, call Gales Gas at 224-5518. That's Gales Gas at 224-5518.
It takes hard work to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than just sports. It also goes for your financial goals. You work hard for your money. You deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. Your local Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If your investments aren't getting you closer to the win, visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Pierre area Edward Jones office for a financial review. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
You like that? You like that?
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Rebecca Feller of the Pierre Gymnastics team, who start their season on Thursday in Huron, but also will be hosting their invite on Saturday this coming weekend as their season is just getting underway. Practice has been going for a while. Coach, it's good talking to you again. The excitement level of the gymnastics season, getting things going, not so much saying, more exciting than any other year, but what's kind of the excitement level for this group and this group of seniors that are coming back?
Well, we got 7 seniors. One is our student manager, and then the other 6 are all gymnasts. And we have, of the 6, 5 are returning state qualifiers. So we're pretty excited about that. It's a pretty good group, and they seem to get along pretty well. And so it should be a fun season.
And that's going to be really nice for you as a coach and to the coaching staff. That I think as years go on too, that there's a lot of girls that start young with this program and then go all the way through high school. Maybe some join back later on, but overall, everybody kind of has that the understanding of how practices are ran. But when you have 5 girls that are returning from the state qualifying spots, that really leads into practice starting on the right foot going into this season.
Yeah, I mean it's really exciting to see where everybody's at and what skills they've managed to keep from year to year. So it should be a lot of fun. You're watching them kind of push each other because they've been teammates for so long, and they're pretty enthusiastic about this season, especially when there's this big of a group, which is, as far as my recollection, this is the biggest class of seniors in the last 10 years.
Again, talking with Coach Rebecca Feller here of the Pierre Gymnastics team. They start the season Thursday in Huron as you get a chance to get a couple of meets in the first week of competition. But let's focus right a little bit on Thursday right now because you're on the road. You're going to be at home on Saturday, but you're on the road on Thursday. And just a couple teams that will be in Huron. I think we've talked about this before, but getting that first meet and having it be few teams really helps you kind of hone in on everything and kind of see a lot more. Obviously, when there's big teams, you're still worried about just the Pierre Governors, but when there's just a few teams, it really kind of does it really help to kind of see everybody a little bit better when there's not as many teams there?
Yeah, I mean it helps them start off the season on a lower key type of meet, so they can kind of see what some other schools, where they're at, also mainly how they're doing as far as their routines, few things that they need to work on, tweak, or things that need major improvement. And, they're not so nervous about a bunch of other teams. It's more just them and their routines to worry about, which is nice. That's what I want them to worry about.
And then
themselves.
On the flip side of it, not being at home to open up, and you're used to it. It kind of happens every year that you're always on the road, and Huron's usually that first start. But not being used to the equipment, maybe that's a little bit of one, it is a disadvantage of not being used to the equipment. But overall, does it kind of what's the are the girls nervous about being on the road, or is it kind of nice to get on the road and get away from Pierre for that first meet to get things going too?
They're used to it. These last couple years, we've had, the Pierre Invite being one of the very first meets of the season. You really have to scramble to get everything ready. You don't have that luxury of waiting until January. But it is nice because before we would travel to Huron, get back Thursday night, the girls would go to school, and then we would leave Friday night to go down to Sioux Falls and then stay overnight and then go to a Sioux Falls meet. So now we don't have to worry about that extra hotel room and travel.
And that's going to be really nice. You mentioned it too. The kind of the what is a little bit unfortunate how quickly you have to scramble to get things through. But having that home meet early on in the season also has got to be really nice to have. Really got to be able to get these girls to be excited about the first meet in Huron, but then be really excited to compete at home early on in the season too.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to that second meet of the year. They're going to be on their own equipment. They're going to be in front of the home crowd. And we're going to have senior recognition night, so having those seniors acknowledged right from the get-go is one of the nice things about it.
Now, on the flip side of it, especially in gymnastics, there's the several sports, and gymnastics being one of them, where you don't have multiple home events and multiple home games like you do. You're either, facing the one team on the road or you're at home. There's a lot of different triangulars, invites, and quadrangulars to go to, so it limits the amount of time that you're at home. So to get that right away then takes away from trying to be at home later on in the year. But again, overall, these girls are used to it, whether they're being at home for one event, maybe they get to be at home for 2 to 3, but they're not home very often. So they are kind of still aware, still understanding that, that home invites early on, that you're not going to be at home as much at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean they're used to the travel. I mean if you go anywhere, it's going to be at least 2.5 hours. Wherever, whatever tournament that they go to. So we do have a few triangulars and quads at home later in the year, but the girls they're used to travel and used to leaving 6 a.m., 6:30 in the morning.
No, we've talked about this as the season's opened up before, and in other years. But now, when having so many return from being in that state meet, maybe it's a little bit different of how you approach this first meet. What you want to see from the girls, whether it's a little bit more of a, hey, we got to be good from the start. Whether that or is maybe saying, hey, let's just see where we're at to open things up. Is there a little bit difference of what you want to see from these girls, especially those that are returning from being at the state meet last year? Is it something that you want to say, we got to be good from the start, or how do you handle that?
Last year they had a really good year. They were concerned with how they were doing. In relationship to Governor Gymnastics. So they were looking at last year's scores, saying, okay, what did we get last year at this meet? Can we up that score? It wasn't competing against anybody else. They were competing against themselves. So every year, or not every year, but every tournament, they would go, hey, what did we get last year? And, we might have increased the score by, 2 points. Maybe it might have been, 2/10. But they're like, an increase is an increase. And that was their goal last year. And I hope that they stick with that this year and go, okay, this is what we had last year. We're going to try to improve on that score.
Also coming up on Saturday, that home invite. It's a bigger home invite, and there's 2 sessions. If you want to explain a little bit about how the home invite will look like this year, maybe compared to other years, but how this one will look on Saturday.
Usually the home invite is in January. This year and last year it's in December, first week. And so with the advisory board's suggestions of having the meet, because there were so many teams, in years past we've had fewer teams. This year we have 12 teams. So they are putting the 2 sets of teams into sessions. So there's a first session and a second session. And that way, the athletes aren't sitting in the gym all day. We can get, the first 6 through, and then there's a second session, and they'll get the next group of 6. The first session is going to be at 10 a.m. up at Riggs, and it will be Sioux Falls, Washington, Sioux Falls, Lincoln, Sioux Falls, Jefferson, Sioux Falls, Roosevelt, Huron, and Aberdeen. And then at 1:50, we're having senior recognition for Pierce 7 seniors. And we will be in the second session with Brookings, Watertown, Harrisburg, Sioux Falls, O'Gorman, and Mitchell.
So make sure you come out on Saturday. As Coach Feller just said, 150 starts senior recognition. These girls are excited about the season, and they have done a lot of good things with the Pierre Governor Gymnastics team over the last couple of years. They have their senior recognition here coming up on Saturday at 150 with the second session starting at 2 o'clock. Here over at Riggs High School. And Coach, getting set for that weekend too. The nerves can be there as well for, performing in front of the home fans. What do you want to see? What's kind of going to dictate a good showing for the Pierre Governors on Saturday as well at home?
Well, I hope they got rid of all those nerves in Huron on Thursday, so that they're ready to go in front of the home crowd on Saturday. I'm just looking for those girls to have some stuck routines or solid routines. Basically, stay on the beam, stay on the bars, make sure that they've got good connections, no bobbles, no extra swings, extra steps, any of that stuff. I mean, even if the routines don't have the higher level of difficulty that they're probably going to have at the end of the season, I'm just looking for some solid routines at the beginning to kind of base the season off of.
Coach, before we start to wrap things up here, you mentioned just how you want to see on Saturday, and I'll kind of ask you again here on Thursday. That overall biggest key for the Governors to be successful on Thursday in Huron.
Basically, it's no falls. Falls are 5/10. They can add up quickly, especially on events like beam and bars. If they can just do nice, solid routines where they just kind of take a breath, calm down, and execute those routines to the best of their ability and not rush them. Because usually if you rush, that's when you get nervous and then you make silly mistakes that you regret as soon as you get done.
And for you as the head coach of this gymnastics team again for another year, how excited are you personally for this for this year to get going?
I'm pretty excited. I mean, I've got a pretty good group of gymnasts, and I've got pretty good leadership in the gym, a great group of seniors. I've got Ryan Shepik. I've got Casey Wilson, Kirsten Korber, that are all returning. I've got Bella Cowie, Emmy Lowe, Isabel Dursa, and Stephanie Velasquez that are also adding to the lineup.
It should be a fun year. Looking forward to seeing how this gymnastics team does over the course of this 2024-25 season. Coach, I appreciate the time as always. It's good talking to you again. Looking forward to the season starting. Good luck. Safe travels on Thursday. Good luck Thursday. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll be talking again soon.
Thank you so much. Hope to see everybody on Saturday.
That is head coach Rebecca Feller of the Pierre Governor Gymnastics team. We'll return with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. KCCRradio.com.
At Shane's Pharmacy, your healthcare is important, and Shane wants to be the pharmacist to take care of you. Shane's Pharmacy will make sure your prescriptions are filled in a timely manner, they will answer your questions, and they will even deliver to your home or office. Call 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy, the pharmacy you know and trust. The number again is 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy in Fort Pierre, proud to support high school athletics.
This fall, take some time to think about your future. While the leaves make their way down to earth and the last sunset of summer leaves us with an autumn chill, it's time to grab the nearest foam finger and break out the face paint. Rush the stands with First Dakota National Bank and forget how to blink. Fall sports are back with jaw-dropping plays, an electric atmosphere, and epic scores. Make some noise with First Dakota National Bank. Open a new account online today at firstdakotanationalbank.com. Member FDIC.
Capital City Ford Lincoln Toyota is serving the central South Dakota community and beyond with a great selection of used vehicles. Local trades and program vehicles are available. New Toyotas and new Fords are arriving and selling before they even hit the lot. So don't wait. Stop in and find out what's coming. If you've been thinking about ordering a new Ford, stop in and sit down with one of our sales specialists today. Capital City Ford Lincoln Toyota at 518 East Sioux Avenue in Pierre. Call 605-224-7378 and visit CapitalCityFordToyota.com.
That's a clown question, bro.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
And we welcome you back inside the KCCR studios one more time here this evening. I want to thank our coaches and the head coach of the Pierre Boys Wrestling Team, and Sean Lewis, head coach of the Pierre Girls Wrestling Team, Matt Thorson, and the head coach of the Pierre Gymnastics Team, and Rebecca Feller. Again, their seasons kick off this week with the gymnastics team in action tomorrow night. Pierre Girls Wrestling gets starting Friday and only wrestle on Friday, and then it'll be Friday and Saturday for the Pierre Boys Wrestling Team as their seasons all get underway here this week. We've got another edition of Coach's Corner. It'll be our final one next Wednesday of the 2024 calendar year. We'll break for 3 weeks with college football, bowl games on the 18th, then obviously Christmas Day and New Year's Day we will break for those as well. So this will be next week, Wednesday will be our final one of 2024, and it's hard to believe. But same time, same place, next week, Wednesday, right here on KCCR starting at 5:30. And, of course, you can go back and watch these and listen to these Coaches' Corners on YouTube at KCCR Sports. Again, thanks to our coaches and Coach Sean Lewis, Matt Thorson, and Rebecca Feller. Have a good rest of your evening.
You've been listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccr.com. Coach's Corner is brought to you by Todd's Electric, Shane's Pharmacy, Lamb Motors, Avera, Owyhee Federal Credit Union, Edward Jones Financial, Graham Tire, Kruger Contracting, CHS River Plains, Gales Gas, Bank West, and Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota. To hear the show again, head to YouTube at KCCR Sports for shows at any time. This has been a special presentation of Riverfront Broadcasting Sports, Central South Dakota's sports leader.